us off at number 10 is an alien invasion. So if the seers of our world are to be believed, then 2023 is in store for some pretty wild stuff. In fact, according to the famous blind seer Baba Vanga, it's not just typical human wars that we should be worried about this year, but the invasion of an evil alien species as well. Now, there are many different conspiracy theories surrounding the existence of aliens to begin with. Among believers, some think they are harmless, while others think they are dangerous, and there's even a third sort of faction that suggests there is obviously more than one race of aliens, so both dangerous and peaceful could exist in our universe. Putting aside the theories surrounding if aliens are dangerous or not, according to Baba Vanga, this year we will be invaded by a race of bloodthirsty monsters that will tragically result in the end of humankind. If that's all true, it would mean that 2023 would be the last year that we all have here, as again, she predicts that aliens will wipe out the human race and take over planet Earth. I mean, there's very little I can use to verify the validity of this statement, but you can sure hope I'm praying it's not true, cause well, I don't want to die. All that being said, if the conspiracy of alien existence is true, would the government know about their impending arrival and be preparing for such a disaster? I mean, I just have some questions. Let's hope this one misses the mark and does not come true. Next up at number 9 is a major cosmic event. Another modern day self-proclaimed seer had something to add to the 2023 prediction list. Craig Hamilton Parker, a British seer who has been nicknamed the Prophet of Doom, says he had a vision of a major cosmic event that will take place in our solar system sometime during the year 2023. Quote, "I have a feeling of something like a very huge solar flare, and I feel this would be significant, whether that reaches the Earth or whether it affects all of our technology or something like that." He then went on to clarify, quote, "I can't explain exactly what it is. You know, I can't see everything. I see parts of things. I get feelings of things." Of course, he isn't the only prophet to foresee some kind of solar problem causing technological breakdown in the year 2023. In fact, Baba Vanga had a similar foresight. I guess that makes me wonder, does two people with similar visions indicate it's super strong prediction, or does it make it less plausible? I have no idea. I'm just thinking out loud. Let's just hope that nothing world-ending actually comes true. Next up at number 8 is the Antichrist. Among the many other foresights predicted for the year of 2023, one I did not have on my bingo card is the return of the Antichrist. Well, according to Athos Salome, a modern psychic who some are even calling the living Nostradamus, says he has seen that the year 2023 will bring forth, quote, "beginning of the end," and that the Antichrist will rise once more. Athos specified that he had a vision prior to the new year that showed the enemy of the Messiah wreaking havoc on Earth between 2023 to 2026, and that we're in store for some dark evil in the next 3 years. He goes on to explain that the Antichrist is not necessarily just one person, but rather an entity with an ability to pervade into multiple people or places. Truthfully, this is one of the more vague predictions on the list. He doesn't go into much detail about where it come from, just that it, quote, "won't come from Europe, contrary to popular belief." I was unaware that was the common belief up until this point. I guess my biggest question is, how will we know what is the work of the Antichrist? Listen, I'm not saying he's lying, I'm just saying I have some follow-up questions. Also, I just really hope it's not true, cause I'm not too keen on the Antichrist roaming the planet for the next 3 years. It's been dark enough lately, I'm not really looking for things to get worse. Coming in at number 7 is a war against the wealthy. If you have been on the internet lately, you've probably come across many people joking about eating the rich. Of course, this doesn't refer to physically doing so, at least I hope it doesn't, but rather the lower class wanting to take down the ludicrously rich and powerful. This isn't anything new. There have been many revolutions throughout history that involved plebeians storming the gates of kings and overthrowing their rule. Remember the French Revolution? Well, according to everyone's famous psychic Nostradamus, the year 2023 could bring forward another revolution of the sorts. As he predicts, quote, "sooner than later you will see great changes made, dreadful horrors and vengeance. The trumpet shakes with great discord, an agreement broken, lifting the face to heaven, the bloody mouth will swim with blood, the face anointed with milk and honey lies on the ground." There are definitely a few factors that make this kind of believable. I mean, we're dealing with a huge cost of living crisis, climate crisis, mental health crisis, and an uptick in people living without homes. And I think think overall there are a lot of people looking for a new way of formulating the world we live in. That being said, a full-on revolution involving war and people's lives should not be taken lightly, and would absolutely be a very scary reality if it did really come true. Next up at number 6 is Rise of the Robots. Feels like every time I turn around, technology is becoming more and more advanced. In a lot of ways, this is helpful, for sure. But at the same time, I have seen far too many movies where robots take over the world, so I always get a little freaked out once I see AI involved in any kind of powerful capacity. Like, has anyone else seen that robot that was created by the Atlas team at Boston Dynamics that can literally do parkour? Like, what if it gets smart enough to change its programming and turn against you? There's no beating a parkour robot. Essentially, the prediction for 2023 is that AI is going to become so enmeshed with our way of living that the need for human input will become virtually extinct. Humans will start losing their jobs to AI, and not just things like the minimum wage jobs where we already have seen a massive rise in machinery taking over. I'm talking like financial advisors or doctors, meaning an AI could be in charge of your financial decisions or even make life or death decisions for you. To me, this just sounds like we're asking for trouble. Robots or AI being in charge of such important things seems to me like a recipe for a dystopian disaster. Call me crazy, but being chased by a parkour robot is just not the fantasy for 2023. Coming in at number 5, Climate Crisis Takeover. Not to get too depressing, but if there was one thing on the list that is actually backed up by the most facts, it would be this one. I mean, we have data showing the rise of sea levels from melting ice caps, the overall average rise in temperatures over the years, rise of greenhouse gases, and so on. I say all of this not to be a buzzkill, but to point out that experts already know our planet is in trouble, and so that just makes Nostradamus' prediction all the more eerie. As the seer put it, quote, "The dry land will dry up even more, and there will be great floods when you see the rainbow." The rainbow refers to another prediction he has made, where he said the world wouldn't see a rainbow for 40 years, or something like that, and so seeing one would be a clue that the impending Earth doom was upon us. Now, the good news is that rainbows have not disappeared in the last 40 years, so if he was wrong on that one, hopefully he's wrong on this one too. Coming in at number 4 is the end of the Vatican. While the Vatican was only declared its own independent state less than 100 years ago, papacy and the Catholic Church date back as far as the 7th century. I mean, I can't really name many things that have existed as a tradition throughout time for that long. However, shockingly, according to the one and only Nostradamus, 2023 might just be the downfall of papacy and the Vatican entirely, which would be wild. Apparently, as it was foretold, in the year 2023 the current pope will resign and he will be the last true pope. His replacement, who will be named Peter, will create or be a part of a scandal that is so shameful to the church and papacy that it will bring down the entire Roman Catholic Church. Quote, "In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will be Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge the people." The end. Now, it's no secret that the Vatican has been involved in a few scandals, to put it lightly, many of which would have ended the career of just about anything or anyone else in the world. So what else could they be involved in that would finally be the last straw? I suppose we will just have to wait and see if it comes true or not. Next up at number 3 is the extinction of all fish. Kind of piggybacking on his own prediction of a climate crisis imploding our Earth in the year 2023, Nostradamus also foresees that this year the planet Earth will sadly see the extinction of all fish across the globe. His prediction states, quote, "Like the sun, the head shall sear the shining sea. The black sea's living fish shall all but boil." Essentially, it sounds like he predicts that due to the increase in temperature, the fish in the sea will cook to death. I mean, not only would that be tragic for obvious reasons, like the extinction of an entire species, but it would also cause a huge issue in regards to global food sources. According to the World Wildlife Foundation, 3 billion people worldwide rely on fish and other seafood as their main source of protein, so the consequences of this would be astronomical. Plus, on a less serious note, the entire planet would smell like dead fish, which, I mean, I don't even know how to fathom how rank that would be. Let's just cross our fingers Nostradamus was off with this one. Coming in at number 2, a civil war. So if you remember from part 1 of this series, one of the things Nostradamus predicted was World War III. And apparently this isn't the only conflict that our world might come face to face with this year. If Nostradamus is correct, in 2023, the United States will also be facing another civil war. However, unlike their previous civil war during 1861 to 1865 that fought to end slavery among other tensions of the time, in 2023 it will be a political war between Democrats and Republicans. This prediction first appears in his 1555 novel, and he hasn't been the only seer to predict it. That being said, however, he's probably the most well-known psychic historically, so this foresight is most commonly attached to his name. Nostradamus was not clear on what the exact cause of the 2023 Civil War will be, but he does say that it will last for an extended period of time and that it will be very violent. Honestly, the last thing I want is another war, but there is definitely some tension between political parties in the states, so I mean, who knows. I just hope that whatever comes up can be worked through without bloodshed. And last up today on our number 1 spot is an inflation zombie apocalypse. By the end of this year, inflation is supposed to get so bad that humans will begin eating the flesh of others just to survive. As the 15th century seer put it, quote, "So high will a bushel of wheat rise that man will be eating his fellow man." And I mean, I don't know about you, but with the price of groceries these days, he may be onto something. Okay, but being serious, there actually have been pockets of history where this exact same tragedy happened. The Leningrad famine, for example, was a very dark time with a rise in poverty and an extreme shortage of food, and people were being arrested for eating other humans. It goes without saying that this would be a nightmare, so let's just hope that he had this one wrong, cause I'm not looking to make The Walking Dead a reality at any point in time.
Number 10. 15 million merits. Imagine a world where everything you need is earned by pedaling on a bike every day. That's what this episode is about. It literally takes a real world phenomenon and takes it to the most extreme. Anyone else not dig the desk life, the 9 to 5, you know, the pedaling to just get enough money for rent? Yeah, I know what that's like. The people in this dystopian world pedal on bikes to power their building, earn currency to buy food and entertainment. Freemium creates a feedback loop of desire that keeps people just coming back. Now I don't know if this is actually gonna happen. Whether society will entirely reconstruct and become like a uniform bicycling machine with no individualism, but if you think more in a figurative sense, imagine if our entire environment built itself around how much we use our phones. Wait, that might already be happening. Number 9, the national anthem. Rumor has it that this actually kind of happened, but who knows. The national anthem centers around the British Prime Minister who must do an unspeakable act to have hostages released. He must fornicate with a pig on national television. If he doesn't, then he will receive ridicule from the country and cost the hostages their lives. If he does, he will have to live with the horror and everyone knowing forever. I won't spoil what he picked, but this kind of reputational ransom is totally possible and probably just a matter of time. It's also probably happening somewhere behind the scenes. As for this having already happened, that is more or less a rumor that I will not continue to spread unless the truth really comes out. Apparently, no, I'm not gonna do it. But hey, it could happen. Number 8. Shut up and dance. Cybersecurity, baby. It's more important now than it ever has been. Anyone can be a target. In the episode Shut Up and Dance, hackers spy on a teen through his webcam and blackmail him through a series of events, and he isn't the only one. It serves as a kind of terrifying PSA that reminds the viewers to be careful what they do online and what they keep online and how accessible it is to people. Check out this YouTube clip.
When she picked up her phone to start recording.
Stop recording the camera. What the f you thinking?
And in the video, you can hear it, them saying, what the F are you doing? Why are you recording us?
That actually happened to a family. Even a home security camera system that cost thousands of dollars was hacked into, and the family started to receive abuse from the attacker through the cameras and through the mics. That's insane. Black Mirror explores what could happen if hackers figure out the kinds of things they can make people do depending on what secrets are being kept. Number 7, hated in the nation. I hope everything in this episode never happens. For one, I don't want bees going anywhere. They're really important. They keep us safe. They keep our food growing. 2, I don't want them to kill anybody if we do come up with a alternative source. And 3, I don't want Twitter determining people's lives and court cases. That's horrendous. I have a Twitter account and I think I've said 7 things on it. I don't like Twitter. Just putting it out there. Sorry guys. Hated in the Nation takes place in the future when bees have been wiped out and replaced with little bee drones. But then a series of deaths start creeping up on people who committed some kind of grim offense online. It turns out the drones had been hacked. Run a game where people on Twitter can determine whether someone should live or die with the hashtag #Death2. The drones use facial recognition to hunt down their victims and take them out. The Twitter thing definitely sounds like a deadly version of cancel culture, and on the bee front, that's actually happening too. I know. Don't worry, they're not murderous yet. But the Delft University of Tech in Holland has developed the Delphi. It's a bee-like drone designed to pollinate crops for Holland's agricultural industry. No deaths yet though. It's been pretty safe because they're busy. Number 6, crocodile. This episode freaks me out. I watched it and it was just like boiling. My blood was just slowly boiling over. Similar to another segment on this list, what if your memories could be extracted? A terrifying thought, I know. Invasive and probably embarrassing, but like it could be really good to find out if somebody committed a crime or not, I gotta say, but how far are you willing to go to get that information, you know? Crocodile is a pool of mixed morality, crime, and the lengths people will go to keep a dark secret hidden. Mia, the lead character, has a dark secret in her past, as you can probably guess. Years down the road, something happens, somebody comes back, the case begins to unravel when an insurance investigator named Shazia harvests people's memories to uncover a nearby accident that somehow involves Mia. Mia does everything she can to keep it under wraps, often leading her hands to getting really dirty. Memory extraction does sound impossible, which is why this new tech is terrifying. Yeah, there's actually tech on it. Scientists at the University of California, Berkeley, have succeeded in decoding and reconstructing people's dynamic visual experience, aka they turn someone's memories into movies, albeit not very clear ones. The tech is very far away from being as regularly used as it was in this episode, but it is indeed on the way and scientists are thinking about it. Should they think about it? I don't know. Let us know in the comments. How do we know? I mean, I'm super soft. I mean, they'll see a lot of videos of my dog in my head if they were doing that. You know what I mean? Dog, coffee shops. Just check my Instagram. You know, that's what I see every day. That's what I like. I'm not afraid, but let us know in the comments what you think. Number 5, Hang the DJ. Bumble, Tinder, Hinge, Christian Mingle. Swiping love is in. Whether you're shopping around for a buddy for the evening or your whole life, everyone is talking about dating apps. So it shouldn't be a surprise that something like this is already on the way. Hang the DJ is one of the few episodes that actually have a positive note to it, not gonna spoil the ending. The episode centers around a dating system that automatically pairs people together with no free will. A man and a woman escape, and I won't spoil it for you. But individuals in the show can be matched together with percentages as high as 99%. That's amazing. How great would it be to know that you and this person get along, and then imagine not getting along with them. That's awkward. It is possible that dating websites could get as accurate as is depicted in the show. There is already algorithmic matching going on different websites, which is steadily being improved. Dylan Hendricks, program director of the 10-year forecast at the research organization the Institute of the Future, has his predictions. He says, as we accumulate more data about ourselves, about how people are reacting in different situations, I won't be surprised if we find in the next 2 years a system that can match people with these kinds of percentages. 2 years! Woo! Better get your Bumble game on. Super strong, you gotta know what you're doing. Number 4, Archangel. The Black Mirror episode of Archangel sounds pretty real already, and I remember watching this thinking, wow, that's insane. I sound 80 years old when I'm saying this, but when I was a kid, I didn't have a cell phone. Like, up until I was 14, up until I got my first job, I wasn't allowed a cell phone. I just was where I was supposed to be, and that kind of blows my mind. I didn't text my mom. If I was going to a friend's house, I called on the landline. She had a cell phone though, but I never had a cell phone. Now, kids are getting cell phones younger and younger because it's an easy way to keep track of where your kids are. They can just text you or call you if they're in trouble. It's super convenient. Why as a parent, when you have 100 other things to worry about, shouldn't your kid have a cell phone if it's that easy to keep track of them? However, Archangel takes that and blows it up. Archangel is a system that takes that one step further. Marie, the mother, has her daughter implanted with a device that will monitor her daughter's position, health, emotional state, and even filter out dangerous images. So for instance, she'd be walking by a barking dog and she wouldn't see it, it'd be blurred out. But this extreme parenting style takes a dark turn as Sarah grows up and begins to rebel because she realizes she has no privacy. Fitbits already track our health and heart rate, our phones do that too, with impressive tech updates no doubt on the way. Our phones can track where we are. Now all we need is these two things to be combined into one device and, well, parents have at her. Or don't. Don't do that. Just, we need to learn how to do things, otherwise if the world explodes, we won't know how to start fires and like keep ourselves warm. That's an extreme, but you get what I'm saying. Number 3, nosedive. Since I started working at Most Amazing 9 months ago, this episode seems more real than ever. What with clickbait, likes, comments, and views being crucial for the company's success, you literally determine whether we can pay our rent or not. Let's get meta. Then turn over to social media and TikTok. The success of whole businesses can be determined just by how many people follow them or who they're using as their advertisers. Not to mention all of our acting careers here at the channel. Having a better Insta? Could be good. The episode Nosedive depicts a society entirely dictated by social media status. It allows you to buy a house, a car, etc. Today, social media presence matters despite how hard some of us say it doesn't. But also get this, according to Wired, in 2014 the State Council, China's governing cabinet, publicly called for the establishment of a nationwide tracking system to rate the reputations of individuals, businesses, and even government officials. The aim is for every Chinese citizen to be trailed by a file compiling data from public and private sources by 2020, so it already happened, and for those files to be searchable by fingerprints and other biometric characteristics. The State Council calls it a credit system that covers the whole society, unquote. So in other words, this isn't slowly coming true, it's already here. Number 2, the entire history of you. The episode The Entire History of You centers around the use of eye contacts capable of recording the events of our lives that can be replayed later. It's pretty freaky, and from the episode looks pretty depressing to be honest. No reason to be present if you have it on film. This device directly taps into memory, something we cannot yet do. But as you can guess, this kind of invention is already on the way. Snap Inc. spectacles can record up to 10 seconds of video. Entire herds of people already use their phones to record concerts as they're currently watching them. I can actually understand how this tech could be helpful for people with Alzheimer's. Replaying memories could give them the foundation they need to feel assured and not as restless and not like they're being lied to. Maybe. But of course, Elon Musk has proposed an interface called Neuralink, which links directly to the human brain. This minimally invasive device will send data to a computer or smartphone and has uses beyond seeing if your partner is faithful or not. But still, we are getting closer. And last but not least, be right back. If you want to watch something tonight that will first like soothe your little heart and then absolutely haunt you for the rest of your days, this is it. My jaw dropped to the floor when I found out this was kind of coming true. Freaked out. For context, a couple is separated by death when the husband passes away in a car accident. Overwhelmed by grief, the widow seeks comfort through an online platform that formulates a virtual version of the husband based on his social media presence. I won't spoil the rest, but honestly, who wouldn't want that? To talk to your loved ones again, hear their voices, even like be able to see them in like a weird kind of AI version. But I think we can all see how that can go wrong. Grief can drive you mad. But enter Eater 9, currently in its beta stages, but it is basically a social media network that will rely on an AI version of you called the Counterpart. This is real, guys. This is freaking real. The Counterpart will comment and interact just like you would if you were present. It is a cyber eternity, and one of the taglines is really eerie. And it's supposed to be like really hopeful, but I find it creepy. Eternizing is a way of keeping your thoughts and posts for all time. Are you curious? Come meet your counterpart and become eternal. Challenge the impossible. I would like to get off the boat now.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have 2060. This is a Reddit response that came from a user called Pity Pity Bum. And they were responding to a question posted that asked, quote, "What are your guys' predictions for the future of the world in the 2060s to 2070s? This user decided to share their opinion and say, quote, "It will be pretty much the same but with climatic crisis, water problem, AI problems, unemployment problems, and energy problems. To solve all of these global problems, we will have probably something like strong world government, EU but in world scale, Big corporations' problem will be solved by this time, I hope. Alright, there's definitely a lot going on there, a lot of crisis happening. Some of those latter predictions aren't totally terrible, but it's definitely quite a jump from where we're at now. I guess like anything on this list, only time will tell. In our number 9 spot today we have the grim future. So this is a response or prediction from a user named Bob Quasit. Bob's got a lot of ideas about where we're headed in the next 50 years or so, but to start off with, he claims that, quote, humanity is well on the way to extinction by the 2060s. Alright Bob, hot start, things are looking grim. He goes on to say that, quote, Western countries, in particular the United States, are well along in the process of losing basic infrastructure. Electricity, clean water, and internet access are only intermittently available at best for all but the areas designated by the US military as, quote, smart cities. While many people anticipate our world only getting more technological, it seems like Bob has the opposite in mind. He definitely envisions a more apocalyptic feel for the next 50 years, it seems. In our number 8 spot today we have colonies. So Bob, from before, had so many predictions in one Reddit post that we had to break it down into 2 points. Near the end of his few paragraph prediction, he wrote about how he believes that pandemics will continue to sweep through our world in the coming years, and this, coupled with, quote, increasingly violent weather on a scale currently unimaginable, deaths in the billions occur. Alright, well, I'm glad Bob seems like a glass half full kind of guy. He goes on to say, quote, some of the elite may or may not have attempted to escape to orbital habitats or colonies on the moon or Mars. These attempts are not successful. Even if colonies are successfully established, they lack sufficient biodiversity and technological skill to survive more than a few decades at most. The same issue applies to underground bunkers. The elite believe that they are technologically capable of self-preservation and do not require a living planet to survive, but they are incorrect. They end up devouring each other in the dark underground. The human race becomes extinct within 100 to 200 years from this point. Listen, can someone check up on Bob to see how he's doing? Cause I'm feeling a little worried after that prediction. There are some definitely interesting points in here that you may or may not agree with, but anything is possible when it comes to the future. In our number 7 spot today we have 3 outcomes. For Reddit user Sonic the Sith, they see 3 potential futures that they think will occur by 2060. They wrote, 1. We have nuked the planet and no human life exists anymore. 2. Some religious cult took power in the US and the world is close to being destroyed by them. 3. We are on the way to fulfill the prophecy depicted in the movie Idiocracy, with some smart people escaping to the moon and Mars. It definitely seems to be a theme that people think we are going to be moving off planet, or at least attempting to within some of our lifetimes, but it's quite interesting that many of these predictions don't involve everyone. Of course, space exploration is something that is getting more attention now than ever, with more private companies helping to expand our knowledge of the universe. James Webb is out there showing us the furthest views we've ever had, so maybe these predictions are more accurate than we even know. In our number 6 spot today we have insane times. This Reddit post comes from someone who has since deleted their account, but they originally posted it to the Futurology thread and they wanted to start a discussion. Their headline reads, quote, the next 40 to 50 years will be insanity. They then go on to pose the question, quote, does anybody else feel this way? Think about the major issues we're facing: climate change, unprecedented growth in technology, worsening wealth inequality, global authoritarian resurgence, plastic pollution, etc. They go on to explain their thoughts a bit more, saying, quote, I know we live in the most prosperous and peaceful time in human history, but doesn't it seem that we are trending toward a future that we are wildly unprepared for? A future of unprecedented change and turbulence. I'm not saying it will be the end of the world or that we are all doomed, but it certainly seems that we are entering an era that will be unlike anything humanity has ever experienced. It's definitely quite an interesting question, and by the edits added afterwards, it seems to have been one that they got a lot of responses to. They conclude their last edit by saying, quote, a lot of people seem to think that we will survive the next 50 years just because we've survived every turbulent period of change so far. To this I say 2 things. 1, past performance does not guarantee future returns, and 2, the challenges we face are not necessarily insurmountable, but they will be extremely difficult to overcome and maintain our civilization, but I think we can do it. hey, at least someone on this list has a positive, although not ideal, outlook for the future. In our number 5 spot today, we have AI growth. So rather than one specific prediction, this is just like a common one that I saw on a ton of Reddit threads that I looked at, and it has to do with AI. It appears that many people believe AI is only going to continue getting better, more realistic, and more helpful, but people also believe that this is going to lead to a much higher unemployment rate. People believe that in the near future, AI technology is going to begin taking over even more jobs than what we've seen in the past. As an example, self-driving cars. It is said that this new piece of technology will soon put 5 million Americans out of jobs. That's a lot. I mean, if taxi companies or Uber can somehow find a way to remove the middleman, you know they would in order to rake in more cash for themselves. This issue isn't just with this, however. It is said that by 2030, nearly 70 million people could lose their jobs due to automation. Is it efficient? Yes. Is it potentially very harmful? Also yes. In our number 4 spot today, we have the 10-year prediction. This prediction comes from the Reddit user Cantabane, and they had some thoughts about the next 10 years because, by their own words, quote, "If history taught us anything, is that predictions of the future more than that are usually not accurate at all." They do start off with some positive predictions that includes renewable energy sources, medical and technological advancements, space tourism, you know, some cool, good things, but then they get into the bad. They predict things like, quote, "Ads are much more intrusive and annoying, everyone is trying to sell you a suit you don't need, nothing can be trusted, people spread fake news and call the truth fake news, the government is either evil and or dumb and brainwash dumb people like they do now, but it's much worse, dumb people still keep electing dumb people, democracy starts sounding like a joke, privacy is a joke, VPNs are lobbied out and now banned in most countries." That's a lot. There's a lot going on there. Well, these are definitely some darker predictions. They aren't completely out there and wild. Some of these are clearly made with a negative impression of what our current world is like, but some might just call that being realistic. In our number 3 spot today, we have negative finances. Carrying on from Cantabane's predictions, they also had some negative financial predictions for the next 10 years as well. They wrote, quote, "A recession hits, home and education loan taken during the time for the same amount of education and space today will probably take a person to repay till they turn 70 on average. The gap between the rich and poor widen." They then finish on some environmental predictions, saying, quote, "Global warming has still caused a lot of biodiversity to fade away, the summers are hotter and the winters still the same, some island somewhere will sink. I mean, a lot of bad things happening now will probably happen again, but worse, just like it has been happening from the past." I mean, it's safe to say that if we continue on the path we're on right now, some of those financial predictions might be pretty accurate. As far as the environmental ones, there are a ton of talk among experts that suggests many islands are nearing the point of being submerged in water, but it doesn't just stop at islands either. Some coastal cities might be at risk within the next 50 years as well. In our number 2 spot today, we have the future timeline. On a lot of Reddit threads, one thing I saw being posted a lot was one website that people wanted to share. The website was futuretimeline.net, and when I clicked on it, it brought me to a site that doesn't just have predictions for the next 50 or 100 years. No, this website has predictions for the next million. This entire website is quite the trip, and it doesn't just include predictions for humans and humanity, but also for space, our galaxy, and our universe. In the 22nd century, they predict things like space colonization, AI becoming sentient, and quantum physics has incredible breakthroughs, giving us insight into fields we didn't even know existed previously. Predictions for 1 million AD include things like continents colliding, Saturn's rings fading away, the Oort cloud being disturbed, basically just a totally different world and environment, but that makes a lot of sense. It's a pretty interesting website that has so much information on it and some pretty crazy predictions of the future. In our number 1 spot today, we have space travel. This post comes from a user who goes by Ignolin, and the heading reads, quote, "How I predict the future will look 2020 to 2045. Obviously, this prediction was made before 2020, so we are currently living in the midst of the time this person was predicting, which is kinda cool. The part of their prediction I really wanted to talk about is in reference to space exploration though. They wrote, quote, "The solar system is entirely inhabited but mostly by robots. Because minds are now digital, until we can travel simply through light-speed data transmission into a computer or robotic body on another world. At this point, we are a hive mind and can have the sensory input from any other connected mind streamed to our own brains. Our species as a whole becomes self-aware. Interstellar travel is possible through one of two methods. If faster than light travel is possible, we may use wormholes or the warping of space-time to travel to distant suns. If not, nanoscale craft can be accelerated to the speed of light with little energy. Once at their distant destination, they begin using the materials available to replicate themselves and form the necessary technological apparatuses for minds to be transferred. I'm sorry, what? That is absolutely insane, but apparently this person is not the only one who thinks that this is where our future is heading, so I have to ask, who else sees this sort of thing coming true?
So I'm going to start off with the most obvious one, and that's AI itself. AI is on everyone's mind right now, and it's growing in intelligence far faster than it became a talked about thing all of a sudden in the public consciousness. Like, what was it, like 6 months ago we started seeing AI generated art, and now it's completely changed the way we're looking at art. Like, countless jobs are in threat of being completely replaced by AI. Graphic design, writing, people are generating their own AI commercials right now, and like, they look pretty janky right now, but this technology is very new, all things considered, and it's only going to get better. So we have a lot of decisions to make about how far we're gonna let this go. I remember when I first started seeing these videos of AI generated images of such and such, if it were an 80s movie, that kind of thing, or just creating visual art. I was just kind of like, this is gonna be a problem. I just don't see how it can be good for us. I'm very pessimistic when it comes to AI. Some people are very positive about it, like, it's just another tool, use it, and I don't know, I just don't agree. I've experimented with it a little bit, but I think at the rate it's going, it's gonna put a lot of people out of work. There's a very real possibility that one day you'll be able to just feed in a couple prompts into a computer and it'll just generate a movie for you, starring whoever you want, in whatever style you want, and I just think that kind of sucks. Part of what makes film great is seeing the world through someone else's eyes. And with this theory, you aren't seeing anyone else's skillfully crafted personal vision anymore. It's just a computer spitting out something entirely targeted at you. And where's the discovery in that? You know? Number 9, advanced VR. Now, out of everything on this list, VR is probably the most positive thing for me. It just looks fun. I haven't tried it yet. I want to. And it's a cool idea that it could become advanced enough that we could, put on a pair of goggles and explore Middle Earth and it just looks like the real thing. Kind of cool, but what we don't want is a Ready Player One situation where people are just almost fully dependent on it as an escape from the harsh reality of the world. That is a sad possibility. Ideally, we want lives that we're excited about living, interacting and forming connections with people face to face. And that's not to say you can't form solid relationships over the internet. You totally can. And it's cool how much smaller the world has become in that way. We can talk to people from the other side of the world in real time, and that's beautiful. But we don't want to become so detached from reality that we spend all of our time hanging out with Captain Picard on the Enterprise instead of taking our kid to the park or something. Keep our priorities straight. Next up, we have brain computers. The idea of human beings becoming intertwined with technology is nothing new. We're already starting to see it happen today. Having our brains hooked up to the internet and becoming these advanced biomechanical beings isn't just science fiction anymore. There are technologies being developed that could make this very possible, but with all the positives that could come with it, there are potentially devastating consequences. Hacking is something that is very pervasive today, with some hackers being skilled enough to retrieve and alter pretty important information. So now picture your brain connected to the internet with your individual thoughts, memories, or even your ideas connected to something similar to like the cloud, right? And then it gets hacked. Memories could be altered or just erased altogether, and just the idea of someone hacking into your brain, reading your thoughts, it sounds pretty nutty, but a ghost in the shell situation is becoming more and more of a possibility as technology like this continues to develop. Next on the list, we have bioweapons. Bioweapons have been used in the past, and history has shown just how horrific and devastating weapons like this can be. We've seen it in warfare. There have been bio-attacks used by fanatical cult members like Aum Shinrikyo in the Tokyo subway system back in 1999. 1995. I mean, this one's pretty simple. There is a very real possibility that a super weapon could be developed that will have an absolutely catastrophic effect on not just one part of the world, but on the entire world. Unlike more traditional weaponry that you can see and actively fight and protect yourself against, biowarfare is much more insidious. I think the best way to throw society into complete chaos is by unleashing some deadly poison that goes completely unseen until, of course, it's too late. At our 6th spot, we have gray goo. Gray goo refers to a scenario where self-replicating nanobots designed to perform specific tasks at the molecular level get out of control and start consuming all matter around them to create more copies of themselves. The idea is that this rapid and uncontrollable replication could result in the obliteration of natural ecosystems and even human life. If these nanobots were to run amok, they could rapidly spread and deplete essential resources, leading to ecological collapse and the extinction of life as we know it. The rapid replication of nanobots could disrupt ecosystems, displace natural organisms, and threaten food chains. These nanobots could also impact infrastructure and technological systems, causing just widespread chaos and disruption in society. This potential threat arises from the nanobots' ability to multiply exponentially, leading to an irreversible, catastrophic chain reaction. Now, this doomsday scenario is completely theoretical, but it's a pretty terrifying idea. Next up, we have superbugs. As human beings have continued to evolve, we've gotten better and better at staying alive and warding off sickness, and that's great. There are tons of illnesses that are mostly benign now, but in the past were much more of a threat to our safety. However, as medication and antibiotics continue to advance, there is a fear that a certain virus could do the same, developing it into a superbug that could spread across the planet before we're able to develop an effective antibiotic. Because as smart and resilient as human beings can be, nature has a way of overcoming too, and viruses have been known to develop, adapting to antibiotics in order to become better at axing us. So yeah, not a fun idea to think about. None of these ideas really are, but if a deadly virus does happen to show up again, hopefully we'll be more prepared at preventing it from spreading after the whole 2020 situation. Maybe that was like our dry run for something far worse, or everything will just be alright. We don't ever have to worry about it again. Number 4, 3D printed weapons. 3D printing is already a thing. It's not like everyone has a 3D printer in their homes yet, but I could see that becoming a thing. We also have 3D printed weapons already. Just recently there was a raid on a factory in London that was 3D printing gun components. So as 3D printing technology becomes more affordable and commonplace, we could see stuff like that happening a lot more, with people being able to 3D print anything they want whenever they want. And it's not hard to see how that could go very bad very quickly. These weapons would be almost impossible to trace, no serial numbers, no regulations or background checks. I think you get the point. Next up, we have advancements in deep fake technology. So I remember when deep fakes first started coming out, and once again, I was like, yeah, this is not gonna be good for anybody. The amount of bad that deep faking can be used for far outweighs the good. I guess you could say that about a lot of inventions. Things can always be used for harm or good depending on who's using it. But with technology like this, it's hard to see how it can be regulated, because the whole point with deepfaking is that it's supposed to look indistinguishable from reality, and we're getting to a point where some of it is starting to look pretty uncanny. So imagine you have deepfaking starting to be used in politics. Some video comes out of a politician saying or doing something nefarious, except they didn't actually do it. Same thing can happen with celebrities or even everyday people. We could have people being punished for crimes that they never committed, or saying awful things they never actually said. And we'll have no way of deciphering between what's real and what's not. And let's look at the reverse side of that. What if someone is caught on video saying or doing something that they actually did? But with the presence of advanced deepfake technology, people don't really take it seriously, with the lines between fact and fiction blurred beyond repair. And at second place, we have advanced surveillance. We're already under more surveillance than we ever have been in history. There are cameras almost everywhere. It seems like our phones are able to listen in on every conversation we have. Our internet browsing is monitored. Big Brother is watching you. It's not a conspiratorial thing to say anymore. It just is what it is. And that's not even to mention that everyone walks around with video cameras in their pockets these days. So how is any honest, hard-working thief supposed to rob their local gas station and get away with it. It's a travesty. But in all seriousness, government surveillance continues to become more and more pervasive with every passing day, and this could potentially reach a point where we're just being monitored 24/7, and that's and I don't need Google and the government being able to monitor and track my every movement. It's just too much power. Finally though, we have robots. Now this point is pretty similar to what I was saying with AI earlier. Yes, like there's the classic Terminator, Skynet, or like Matrix idea of robots becoming so advanced that they pose a physical threat to humanity, but what about something that we're already starting to see happen? Human beings being replaced by robots in the workforce. Cashiers are almost a thing of the past now. I go into most grocery stores and there's a self-checkout area. We have robots that have replaced factory workers. There's even robots that flip burgers now. The amount of jobs available to like everyday people, it just continues to dwindle as AI and robotics become more and more advanced, and that is incredibly scary. Sure, robots like hunting us down and eliminating us is a terrifying idea, but being replaced, having to scavenge for work because even more competitive job market, like that is very real. That's something that we are watching happen now. If more regulations aren't put in place, things can end up going very badly for us in the near future.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have climate change. I know some of you don't want to hear about this one, but it is always on the list of predictions for years to come, and we're just starting off with it and getting it out of the way. The climate is a delicate thing, and our presence here on Earth has a great effect on it. The climate can make our lives significantly easier, or it can make our lives significantly harder, so it really is something that is important to note. 2021 saw both heat and cold records broken, and it saw its fair share of natural disasters, floods, and fires. It is predicted that 2022 unfortunately won't be much different, sadly, which is not what we had hoped for. There aren't necessarily any exact predictions surrounding the climate, it's just the idea that we will continue to see some of the most extreme weather we have ever seen. In our number 9 spot today, we have the climate war. Speaking of the whole climate change thing, this is a prediction for 2022 that comes from Nostradamus. There's a couple more of his predictions on this list today, so if you don't know, Nostradamus was a man who lived in the 1500s, and he was an astrologer, poet, and what is called a seer, as he published a book of quatrain poems that are said to predict future events, and some of these predictions have actually come true. One of his predictions he has for 2022 is, quote, "Under the opposite Babylonian climate, great will be without the outpouring." I read that and didn't know what it meant either, but some people smarter than me have come to the conclusion that this is a prediction about the start of a climate war. It is said that this war is going to be a result of a lack of resources, and whichever country is involved is going to begin attacking the country next to them to try and gather their resources. Who knows if this will come true? I guess that's why it's called a prediction, and if it were to, who knows what countries would be involved. In our number 8 spot today, we have an economic recession. It is very obvious that the entire pandemic and last few years have had an unprecedented effect on the economy. I know every country is in a very different phase right now, and a lot of people have different mindsets, but I can say, as a Canadian, every time we start to get somewhere where things are opening back up and they feel like they're on the right track, everything just gets shut right down again, and we're back in March of 2020. The constant opening and closing of businesses is definitely taking its toll on the economy, as well as travel restrictions affecting tourism, general anxiety causing people to not go out and spend their money, all the Amazon packages. The pandemic has flipped our lives completely around, and the economy has taken a big hit because of it. This is exactly why people are predicting that in the new year we will see an economic recession. I hope this one really isn't true, because people all over the world have struggled enough for the last couple of years. In our number 7 spot today, we have the glacier. This is a prediction that comes to us from Baba Vanga, the late Bulgarian mystic and clairvoyant who has made a series of predictions, some of which have eerily come true. One of the predictions of hers for this year is a bit of a strange one, and considering our current global climate, this is one we are all definitely hoping isn't true. She predicted that this year an ancient glacier is going to melt due to global warming, which is probably a decently accurate prediction, but she also said that within this glacier will be a virus, and once the glacier melts, this virus will now be released to the world. The worst part is that this is said to be a virus that humans simply cannot handle. This isn't where her predictions for humanity end, so I'm not exactly sure how she expects us to recover from that, but I'm just gonna wait and see, I guess. In our number 6 spot today we have a world power. Back with another Baba Vanga prediction. This one is a little murky as to what exactly it means, but there are some theories. She apparently said that the year will see 3 giants unite and a strong dragon will seize humanity. Remember how I said exactly what this means is a little unclear? People have speculated that perhaps the 3 giants could be 3 of the most powerful countries, maybe the United States, Russia, and China, but seeing all these powerhouse countries unite would be quite a shocking prediction if it were to come true. There are others who think that maybe the strong dragon part is in reference to some country rising into a more powerful position than we've seen before. At this point, who knows exactly what the next year is going to hold, but I think it's pretty safe to say that anything can happen. In our number 5 spot today we have a conflict. Nostradamus was busy when it came to predicting things for 2022, so here's another one of his best guesses. He wrote, quote, "Of blood and hunger greater calamity, 7 times oppressed to the marine beach, monarch of hunger, place taken, captivity." Yeah, again, another one I simply did not understand, but it is apparently basically saying that his prediction is that 2022 will see an increase in world hunger due to the increase in armed conflicts. That's like a double whammy of terrible. As a result of this uptick in hunger, there will also be more movements in terms of population. I'm talking about more people immigrating to other countries in order to escape these terrible conditions. He doesn't seem to mention anything in the prediction of which countries he thinks will be affected or where those fleeing will make their new home, but that would be pretty freaky if he somehow had the ability to name all of those specifics. For now, we can definitely take this slightly vague prediction and just hope it doesn't come true. In our number 4 spot today we have locusts. This Baba Vanga prediction might actually be pretty accurate because it's something that has been seen in the past and something that has been quite a relevant issue in the last few years, especially in 2020. Baba Vanga has predicted an apocalypse style scene in India where she believes swarms of locusts will be next year. Like I mentioned before, in 2020 India was dealing with the worst swarms of locusts that were seen in decades, so it's entirely possible that 2022 might be an absolute nightmare for them as well. There are plenty of reasons why this poses a major problem, but one of the main ones is that those bugs can absolutely devour food and they reproduce fast. Lots of quick, hungry bugs is a really huge dilemma for farmers everywhere, and a couple of years ago this issue was really impacting crops. Hopefully next year won't see these same issues come back. Like I've said before, people have dealt with enough in the last few years. In our number 3 spot today we have catastrophes. This one kind of goes hand in hand with number 10 on this list that we started off with, climate change, but this one is just getting a little more specific and is actually about natural disasters, more specifically earthquakes and tsunamis. Another Baba Vanga prediction, she was able to predict the 2004 tsunami, so this 2022 prediction is made all the more eerie. She claims that in 2022 we will see an increase in multiple different kinds of catastrophes, but especially earthquakes and tsunamis. She then went on to explain more about who she believes will be hit the hardest and which places will be impacted the most by the severe weather. She said that several Asian countries as well as Australia will be seeing intense bouts of flooding. Nostradamus also had a prediction for 2022 regarding this, except for his, he predicts that Japan is going to be seeing an earthquake that is going to appear in the middle of the day. Part of this is a good thing because the timing of it will potentially minimize the human loss, but he does make it clear that he believes the material loss will be great. These sorts of things are very scary to think about because there isn't really a way to predict them for certain, and there is really nothing we can do about Mother Nature. In our number 2 spot today we have Paris. For one last Nostradamus prediction for this list today, we have this super worrisome one. He apparently wrote, quote, "All around the great city will be soldiers lodged by fields and cities." This is said to mean that for 2022 he is predicting that Paris will be under siege. For what reasons? Well, that remains unclear. There are other ways to interpret this prediction, like perhaps it's more so stating that the city will just be kind of closed off for a while, but truly, who knows? I wish the people who made these predictions were a little more direct with them, but hey, who am I to critique Nostradamus? At the end of the day, the good news is that this is just a prediction, and Nostradamus has been wrong before. It just puts people on edge to hear these scary thoughts, which totally makes sense. I wonder if Nostradamus predicted that a random Canadian would be here talking about his poems into a camera to upload to the internet for thousands of strangers. In our number 1 spot today, we have a water crisis. Water is obviously something that is necessary to sustain life here on Earth, and although it may not seem like it, there is a limited amount of it. This prediction has to do with water, or more so, the lack of it. It is predicted that in 2022, because of a multitude of reasons that includes increases in population as well as river pollution, that we will soon be seeing a lack of drinking water. It is unclear exactly who they think this will affect the most, but it's a really scary thought regardless. It has long been predicted that we will one day be fighting each other for the little drinkable water we have left, and the closer we get to that being a reality is pretty terrifying. I think it's pretty safe to say that we can all likely agree that this would be a very bad scenario for people to be in, but I also think it's important that we acknowledge how many people there are who currently don't have any access to clean or running water. This isn't a new problem, unfortunately, and I really wish we could be predicting the opposite of this one.
Starting us off at number 10, World War III. Now, I hate to say it, but if there is one prediction that has been made that doesn't seem like an incredible long shot, it would be this one. There are currently conflicts all over the world and tensions are rising, and who knows what could happen over the next few months. Of course, I'll be hoping with every morsel of my being that it will not come true. I mean, obviously, the last thing that any of us want is another world war to break out. Although Nostradamus has been known to have some success in his foresight, let's just hope that this one missed the mark. Next up at number 9, people will fall from the sky. According to TikToker and alleged time traveler from 2671, Ina Alaric, in 2023 we will see people mysteriously fall from the sky out of nowhere. No planes will be flying overhead, and they won't be skydivers, but simply falling like rain and crashing to their death. Now, he doesn't say much else about this claim, just that there will be exactly 7 people, and that June 18th, 2023 will be the fateful day. And I mean, I agree that people falling from the sky is certainly cause for concern. I'm just having a bit of a hard time believing that a random TikToker who claims to be from the future is our best chance at foreseeing what is in store for 2023. But that being said, I should be careful because this is not something I want to jinx, so let's just hope this is not something we will need to deal with come June 18th. Next up at number 8, moving to Mars. Another Nostradamus prediction for 2023 is that this will be the year humans move to Mars. Now, maybe this is a result of the Earth's destruction. As mentioned earlier, he does predict a 3rd World War to break out the same year. Now, maybe he's onto something. We already know that Elon Musk has been trying to make this a reality, but their timelines don't quite line up, as he suggests that humans will visit Mars by 2029. But who knows, maybe the technology will be expedited and we will all be making our way to the red planet sometime next year. Though I won't be hoping for that, because if we're making our way to a new planet next year, that means something has gone horribly wrong with the one we've got now. Next up at number 7, no more money. Nostradamus was not the only fortune teller to have predictions for 2023. Famous blind seer Baba Vanga saw the end of money in 2023. Now, it's hard to imagine how a world would function without currency, as literally everything revolves around it. But if you think about it a little less literally, we are already seeing the beginnings of this. Cash is virtually on its way out, and everyone pays for everything with their phone or their bank cards. Plus, with the addition of cryptocurrencies, who knows how long the idea of currency, as we currently understand and use it, will remain. So while it does seem like it would be the end of the world if money no longer existed, maybe she was onto something. Coming in at number 6, celestial fire. According to the famous 15th century seer, along with a world war and a relocation to Mars, we are also going to be seeing a giant celestial fire breakout. Followers of Nostradamus believe he means that our sky will quite literally be on fire, and if that doesn't scream end of times, then I'm not sure what does. Now, some have interpreted his vision a bit more poetically, suggesting that it signifies a new world from the ashes of an an old one, but I'm not sure that this is much better in terms of a doomsday prophecy. It seems like either way you cut it, Nostradamus thinks some way or somehow the world as we know it will die in 2023. Let's just hope that this is another anticlimactic 2012 situation. Next up at number 5, a change in orbit. According to Baba Vanga, in the year 2023, our Earth will change its orbit. Now, the details of how this would actually happen were not given, but if it turns out to be true, we are in for some serious issues. For starters, any shift in the Earth's orbit could bring devastating damages to sea level and our climate, both of which aren't particularly thriving to begin with. And even worse, if the Earth moved any closer to the sun, the increased radiation and temperatures would cause a complete breakdown. Essentially, any changes to the Earth's orbit would send us into complete and full mayhem and would very much be the end of the world. Coming in at number 4, bioweapons. Now, if a world war and a flipped orbit didn't scare you, then maybe this just might. According to Vanga, in 2023 there will be a big country that will carry out bioweapon studies on humans, which would have horrifying consequences. Now, the good news is that many large countries like Canada, the US, the UK have a complete ban on these types of experiments. But there are other countries around the world that could still be the culprit. But that being said, who knows? If other 2023 predictions are true, countries could pull out of this treaty and begin conducting experiments to try and make it out alive. The consequences of the release of bioweapons could be detrimental and has the potential to wipe out the whole planet if we aren't careful. Next up at number 3, nuclear explosion. Among her many foresights for 2023, Vanga also warned that next year a nuclear power plant will explode, causing irreparable damage. Now, there are certain countries at war currently that do possess the power to cause such a disaster, making it all the more eerie. Now, what's spooky about Vanga is that she has a wild success rate, 85% in fact, according to scientists that have studied her predictions. So it has many wondering if this prediction will fall into that 85% success rate along with Chernobyl and her own death date, or if it will be among the 15% that she has missed. For the sake of our planet, I am crossing my fingers that this is not something we will be facing come the next year. Next up at number 2, a solar tsunami. As if the predictions for 2023 haven't been through enough already, there is a dark end of world prediction that there will be a solar storm on a scale never seen before. Now, solar storms happen when a burst of energy is released from the sun, and this sends electrical charges and radiation hurling towards the Earth. While that does sound a bit freaky, it actually happens all the time, like the Northern Lights for example. What Vanga was predicting is more along the lines of complete and utter worldwide blackout followed by technological failures and overall global panic. Quite literally, she is describing a dark age. If her prediction is true, it would essentially cause complete societal collapse, and truthfully, who knows what happens from there. And last up in our number 1 spot, lab births. Almost like some weird cousin to The Handmaid's Tale, Vanga predicts a dystopian world where in 2023 we will see the end to natural human births. Specifically, that birth, the way that we've been doing since the beginning of time, will be banned. She claims to foresee that the government will make it law that all life must be created in a lab, and that medical experts would essentially decide how many people are born a year, and that parents would be able to customize their traits and appearances even. Now, this prediction doesn't come totally out of left field, as we do have the capabilities to involve science in the process to a much higher degree than ever before. A while back, an article was circulating about a real-life human boy named Adam who was created in a lab from stem cells and grown in an artificial gestational sac for 36 weeks, and it caused quite the uproar. Now, this article was proven to be be fake, but the entire idea of it was believable at the time and certainly made many very, very uncomfortable. Could it be something that comes true in our future? I sure as hell hope not.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Higgs boson particle. In season 10, episode 2 of The Simpsons, Homer becomes inspired by the work of Thomas Edison. As a result, he tries to become an inventor. In one scene, we see Homer scribbling on a chalkboard. At the bottom, it reveals a math equation, which wasn't thought to be anything big, just Homer doing some scribbles. Until more than a decade later, when scientists discovered the Higgs boson particle, otherwise known as the God particle. People then realized Homer's work was a lot like this particle. Like, what kind of sorcery is this? Do they got a team of scientists working for them or something? Seriously, the writers either must be super smart or they have psychic powers. Or both. And at number 9, we have the grease scheme. And if you guys like this video and you want to see more videos from us, then make sure to give this video a big thumbs up because it really helps us out. So in the 1998 episode titled Lord of the Dance, which is from season 10 episode 1, Homer comes up with an idea to steal grease from a bunch of places, like his kid's school cafeteria, and then he sells it to make a quick buck. Well, guess what? People started doing this in real life. In New York, people were going around stealing grease from restaurants. It was so bad that apparently $75 million worth of grease gets stolen each year. Restaurants had to start hiring people to safely remove their grease so that people wouldn't break in and steal it. Sounds absolutely crazy, right? Well, somehow The Simpsons knew that this was going to happen. Or maybe people were influenced by Homer in that episode. Either way, it's pretty creepy. In our 8th spot, we have the outbreak. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty creeped out when I found out that The Simpsons might have predicted COVID-19. Seriously, it's really creepy. So in the 1993 episode titled Marge in Chains, a mysterious virus from Asia plagues the town of Springfield. In the episode, a sick factory worker coughs into a bunch of boxes that they were shipping out to Springfield. As a result, tons of Springfield residents get sick with this flu. The flu spreads quickly throughout the town, and soon a number of residents become ill. On top of that, the doctor says the best way to combat the flu is to stay at home. Okay, that's pretty creepy. Seems an awful lot like what's going on currently. So in 1993, The Simpsons predicted this current outbreak. Not only that, but in the same episode, they had these killer bees. A bunch of townsfolk knock over a crate labeled killer bees when looking for the cure. Well, a couple months ago, we had the scare of murder hornets. So tell me how The Simpsons managed to get 2 predictions right in one episode. Like the same episode. They knew that murder hornets were gonna be a thing at the same time there was an outbreak. It's crazy. Moving on to number 7, we have the tiger attack. In 2003, Roy Horn from the duo Siegfried and Roy was attacked on stage by their white tiger. Thankfully, he survived the attack. But it seems like The Simpsons predicted this 10 years before it even happened. So let's take a look at the 1993 episode titled Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling. What a title. In this episode, we see 2 magicians named Gunter and Ernst. They worked in a casino and had a magic show where they displayed white tigers. Sound familiar? Well, in this episode, while performing a show, the tiger lashes out and attacks both the handlers in front of a crowded audience. So you're telling me that The Simpsons made an episode that's a parody of Siegfried and Roy, and then years later the exact thing happens to them? Yeah, that's some weird voodoo stuff going on there. I don't like that. And at number 6, we have the 3-eyed fish. So in The Simpsons, the 3-eyed fish is known as Blinky. It's a mutated fish that gets discovered after Bart fishes it up near the Springfield power plant. This happened in season 2, episode 4, which aired back in 1990. Fast forward to 2011, and there are headlines about an Argentinian man who caught a 3-eyed fish while out on a fishing trip with some friends. Turns out that the fish was caught in a reservoir where a power plant pumps hot water from their facility, and clearly the water gets polluted. The fishermen said that it was dark at the time and they didn't really notice the fish, but then when they looked at him with a flashlight, they saw his 3rd eye. How convenient. A 3-eyed fish. Just like in The Simpsons.
We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with 9/11. There are a bunch of cartoon shows that have been thought to have predicted the tragedy that occurred on September 11th, 2001. One of them being Johnny Bravo. The other one, of course, being The Simpsons. In a 1997 episode titled New York City Against Homer, we see Lisa hold up a magazine. The camera punches in on it and it reads New York, $9 a day. Behind the $9, it appears to be the Twin Towers. The way that everything is formatted, it looks like it says 9/11. At this point, I don't even know what to believe. Moving on, number 4, we have Capitol Hill. Of course, you all know by now that on January 6th of this year, an angry mob of President Trump's supporters stormed Capitol Hill. Well, turns out that The Simpsons may have warned us that this would happen. For this, let's take a look at the 1996 episode titled The Day the Violence Died. This episode was meant to be a parody of the 1976 Schoolhouse Rock segment, I'm Just a Bill. The Simpsons version was I'm an amendment to be. In the episode when the amendment is ratified, the character says, "Doors open, boys," and then a bunch of amendment or bill looking characters start storming up the steps of the Capitol Hill building. Some have then linked this scene to what happened at Capitol Hill on January 6th. So I don't get how they do it, but they do. Like, what magical powers do they have? Do they have a crystal ball or something? Let me know. Coming in at number 3, we have advanced technology. So somehow The Simpsons knew how technology was going to be like for us in the future. A lot of these predictions were made in the 1995 episode titled Lisa's Wedding. In this episode, Lisa visits a psychic that shows her what her future is like. And in one scene, we see Lisa's husband Hugh talking to a watch, which then literally turns into a phone. Sound familiar? Watch that you can use as a phone? Yeah, an Apple Watch. In this episode, they also predicted FaceTime, since there's a scene where we see Lisa talking to her family on what looks like a FaceTime call or a video chat or whatever, I don't know. Again, this was done back in 1995, and the Apple Watch came out in around 2014. So The Simpsons are just always ahead of the game. Coming in at number 2, we have the NSA spying scandal. In 2013, a former contractor for the CIA, Edward Snowden, revealed that the US National Security Agency, the NSA, was collecting phone records of millions of Americans. Dun, dun, dun. So they were spying on us. Well, not me, I'm Canadian. But they were spying on people through their phone calls, and they probably still are. But anyways, in the 2007 Simpsons movie, they literally predicted that this would happen. So in the movie, the Simpsons family flee Springfield and are hiding from the EPA. Well, in one scene, Marge warns her family to be careful because people could be listening in on their conversations. Then it cuts to a room filled with NSA agents listening in on a bunch of people's calls. It's like they knew from the beginning we were being spied on by the government. I mean, we all had our suspicions, but the Simpsons actually said it out loud, and they were correct. I'm starting to think that they have insider info. And in our number 1 spot, we have the horse meat scandal. Okay, all of the predictions so far are pretty creepy, but this one goes beyond that. So in 2013, the horse meat scandal was a huge food industry scandal in which foods declared as 100% beef were found to have horse meat mixed in with it, along with some other animals. Countries such as France, Iceland, England, Russia, Ireland, and Sweden were affected by this scandal. And as gross as it is, The Simpsons predicted it. So this was predicted in an episode back in 1994 in which Lunch Lady Doris is feeding kids mystery meat. More specifically, in season 5, episode 19, Doris serves the kids from a large container, reading assorted horse meat. And guess what? Kids' lunches were affected by this horse meat scandal. So, what are the odds? Like, honestly, Simpsons, you can tell me that it was meant to be a joke, but I don't know. This one is pretty weird. I honestly think that that was a warning for us.